All right, well, let me say hello and welcome to another weekly edition of Stock Market Mutterings. This is for the week that starts on August 26th. As always, I'll do my best to try to take a grope in the murkiness here, find you some quality trade setups, try to make some sense out of this market for you, and I do hope it helps you profit a little bit. As always, if you need help with your personal trading or you need trader education, take a moment, visit that link right there on the screen, thelincolnlist.com. You can start trading with us live. So, my friends, where do I begin this week? It's like frantic Friday today. I mean, we had it all. We had Jerome Powell in the Jackson Hole. We had Trump tweeting. We had tariffs coming out of China. We had all three of them. And I'll tell you what, market didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Because this is a couple days ago, it looked like we might be breaking a range that we talked about in the last couple of market mutterings. And just like that, it be gone just like that. And this is an unprecedented time that a lot of us are just having to deal with. You know, like I've been doing this trading thing for 20 years. And one of the things, if you want to have a long-term successful career, you're going to go through peaks and valleys, but you're going to have to change because things just change with or without you, whether you want them to or not. And you just have to adapt. And what we're seeing now with these tweets right now at this particular moment in time, your whole freaking day, your whole month or year can be wiped clean out of one tweet, out of the middle of nowhere. And I'm sure many of you are experiencing that. You're going through this the first time. And I think for a lot of us, even like I said, I'm 2 decades in, this is something that I'm dealing with as well. You got to pay attention at certain times in the market because the volatility right now is pretty wacky. And the market is so headline sensitive to both what the Fed says and what's coming out of China or out of the United States with these tariffs. I mean, any sentence like that could end your day or your year, or maybe it makes you a fortune depending on what side of that trade you're on. But like I said, man, your ego ain't your amigo. And this type of a market is not conducive to egos and savages just yet. It will be, but not just yet. So let's kind of talk about some of this stuff here, where I think we might go, what we might see. And remember, whatever I say could be completely wrong based off of one tweet over the weekend. Now, when you're kind of in an environment, before I start talking about some of this stuff, I've done a few whiteboards about trading through market corrections. I've done happy hours and stuff like that about trading through volatility. I know a lot of you reach out to me, but if you're watching this for the first time or you're struggling a little bit with this market, you know, I just mentioned at the beginning, in order for you to have a long, successful career, you have to be able to change. And we've talked about this in the whiteboards with the risk on and the risk off sort of thing, where there's moments where things are in line. The market's either calm or it's moving in the direction that you want it to. Your positions are working out well. You're in sort of this calm type of environment, lower volatility. You can afford to be aggressive. You can take larger position size. You can have a little bit more wiggle room on your stops. And you can, you know, sometimes, let's say for lack of a better word, you can cheat. You can kind of forecast what a setup is going to do and kind of jump in a little bit earlier, knowing you have a sort of systematic behavior to the markets. You don't have that right now. So if you go into a trade and you're not using stop losses, you might absolutely get murdered. I mean, you saw some candlesticks on some of this stuff if you're looking over here at the SPY. I mean, you're just seeing 2-3 point drops. 150 point candles on the Dow, just dumping, you know, stocks that we normally trade like Tesla, Netflix, Nvidia, Apple, just washing out $4, $5, $8, sometimes in just 1 to 2 candles. So if you get into something that looks, I mean, you got one side of this argument where you can say technical analysis is the holy grail. And I use technical analysis, but it's not the end all be all, right? I mean, there's times when you're in an environment like this where technical analysis is not the only thing that's out there. Because like I said, you could be ruined with just one single tweet. So you've got to be using stops. And I'm not going to go into it because I've done the whiteboards and stuff over there. Just go through the channel and look for it if you want to hear about it. But just a quick thing out there, guys. I know this can be freaky for some people that's trading it for the first time. These are great opportunities to make money, but you got to have patience when you're doing this. Got to wait for the right setups. And you got to use a stop because you get them go make a sandwich, you might come down you might come back to a 600 point down candle here in the market. So just kind of remember that this too shall pass. Like they say, all storms pass. this too shall pass, and things will get back to a more calm nature. Now let's talk about this market, where we might go, because we're now back at an interesting level. I want to look at the bottom chart, which is the daily. And when you're looking at this here, I was talking about last week I was talking about this is the range you've got to deal with. 294 to the tops. And then you've got this 282 to the bottoms. That's a wide range that you're dealing with on a week by week basis. And we're now in like the fourth straight week of actual selling in this market. And I said, at some point, one of these levels are going to go. And unfortunately, right now, they're just a little too spread apart. Now, it looked as if just a couple of days ago that we might very well break that, especially going into this Powell speech on Friday. Looked like that might be a possibility. Market shrugged off a few things, and it had spent most of its time up towards that 294, about 3 or 4 days. And it looked pretty good there, especially opening up really strong there on a Thursday, but then it just started selling off. Then it kind of rebounds a little bit there on Friday, and I think most of you probably remember there what happened. A couple of tweets come out there. Not good. And it just sold right off. And it just like that. I mean, that's what we're talking about with the volatility. I mean, you go from tapping on that resistance level for 3 or 4 days in a row, and then in just one Friday, you're practically right back down to this support. So really, when you're looking at this, you got the 200-day moving average at 280 underneath of this. This is going to be an important number going through. And you've really got 3 bottoms right here spreading out from, I think this is the 5th, the 7th, and the 15th. So 3 times this month, you've been down into that 281.5, 282. Let's just say 282. You've been down in this 282 spot. You got to watch this, man. You got to watch this. You go through 282, it might just get freaking ugly. And if it does go under there and you get a close underneath of this 282, I have absolutely no idea why you're not going to end up going back down into the 200-day moving average and maybe back to the beginning of the summer. When are you going back to June? Back to June's lows. I mean, it's crazy to think that after this 5 or 6% pullback that you're experiencing, that we're still not even in June levels. So, I mean, if the market wants to dig in and smack you around a little bit, it can do that. But again, it's a day-by-day thing. As a trader, you live day by day. You look at your stuff. You have your setups. You take your shots, pick your spots, use your stops, and you should be just fine. But those are my levels right there. Pay attention to them. I don't know if we're going to go up on there. Hell, I got no idea. I got no idea what we're going to expect, but I'm feeling, anything can happen here over the weekend with some tweets. Who knows? So let's take a look at some stocks. Let's take a look at those. How about that? Where do I want to go? How about BA? Let's take a look at some BA here first. This thing all of a sudden starts to really, this thing has really come off the bottom here from this 320. I'm going to take this down a little bit. Nice bounce up into its 200-day. Of course, getting kind of caught out with the market here as well and fading a little bit. I want to look for this one going forward as a short. Unless things change dramatically in the tone of the market. I mean, I feel this is just like a small squeeze, small panic bounce on this, taking it back up to a very important resistance level, a level that this thing has really struggled with going back all the way to May. So I feel that if you're going to press up towards that area of the 365s, that this is more likely a short than it is a long. Now, again, these things can change at any moment. If the market decides to flip a switch, they reach some sort of trade deal, or some news comes out that's specific, and it actually takes out that resistance, this is what you have to do as a trader. You have to completely flip your bias, like a light switch, and go to the other side. So, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen in this case, but for sure, I want to watch this one. And, it all depends on how we open up Monday. If we gap down and it's down 6 or 7 or 10 or something, I'm not going to chase a short either. I don't short in the hole. I think that's bad business, and that's not something I want to do. So I'm just kind of looking at this one, that if it holds up or there's an area here, I kind of want to focus on this one as a possible short. Another one here has been this WDAY, and they've got some earnings coming up here. And again, this one looked really good on Friday. I mean, it was finally breaking some range here of 194. And, considering how most things went in this market, it was only down a buck and some change on, yeah, bucking some change on Friday. So I like this one. I do like this one here. I like this one long, but you've got earnings coming up. And, you know, when you're talking about how this market may open up on Monday, who really knows? Who knows if it's going to be a long or it's a short? But I do like the relative strength that it had. I do like the technical pattern that's on here. But again, we're going to need a little bit more data. We're going to have to let some things get washed out here on Monday to try to figure out what the next step might be. And you've got some earnings. But if you are a day trader like I am, you'll find some spots here that can be attractive for a nice little trade. Also, PAYC. I like this one too. I had a little swing position in this one. It's thin, but it works out pretty good here too. 31 cents on the day. That's a pretty good one. Chart looks nice, but it is a little bit high. And you are getting to a spot here where you've got some resistance up in this area. Now, when you've got something like this, if you're just going to go one side heavy, either like uber bullish or uber bearish, it pays to stay on that side. But if you find spots throughout the day as things are progressing, you start to see a market change and it's really getting, you start breaking those levels that we talked about and you start trading down SPY 280. This could also be a short. I mean, you got a relatively pretty straightforward trade. You can either short this thing here with a stop at the highs where you've had 3 rejections over it over the last 3 days, and you'll probably see this thing trade either back down to its daily VWAP or the 10 or 20 moving average. Or if it holds up and actually breaks those, you have a long there. So I think you have like dual trades here possibly on PAYC and BA. Now, I don't know what else to say about Mr. Shop. I don't even know why I keep talking about this thing, man. I mean, I'm sure you guys are watching this to some degree. I mean, what do you say? Look at that. And if you bought this in January and you still holding it, good for you. But I always watch Shop. There's always a trade in Shop. I don't even know what to say about it at this point. There's always a long, there's always a short. Now, one other thing I want to put here is a couple. I'm just going to throw them out here. It all depends on what kind of activity we get at the beginning of the week. But I'm giving you some stocks here that still have some really solid strength to them. ROKU. This looked really, really good prior to that when it was breaking out on the daily, taking out all-time highs. Just smelled like this thing wanted to do 145 to 150. And, we have all this stuff thrown out there. So maybe you got to have a couple of days of letting emotions go. But if things tighten up, slow down, the volatility gets tapered out, or maybe this just runs on its own. They're strong stocks in bear markets, but keep your eye here on ROKU. And then last, I'm going to throw in TWLO. I've been watching this when I said last week that you're reaching a very important spot for this. It's either going to bounce or break down. It actually bounced for a few days, so this one was pretty good. But I still got my eye. If we start fatiguing out in this market and we go underneath this 120, 180, I think this thing's going to sell off. It's got a pretty solid chart base right there. If it loses that, you're probably going to get some good cash flow to the downside. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there because I'm tired. I haven't even shaved. This market's wearing me out on a summertime. But anyway, you got to hang in there. If this is the first time you're doing this, sometimes trading is all about survival. It's about living to fight another day. It's about keeping your account with money in it, not getting too aggressive. And there's a time for that. There'll be a time when things will calm down and roll in your favor. Then you want to get aggressive. You'll have risk on. In this type of markets, if you're struggling a little bit, risk off, be patient, maybe take a day or two off. I've done tons of videos, just look at them. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching this week's edition of Market Mutterings. Trade them well. Until next week, take care.